Do not wake the Omega sleeping on my chest. Unless you want to die. The warning dropped across the penthouse like a loaded gun. Every capo in the room froze. The private doctors stopped breathing. Even the armed guards standing near the glass walls lowered their eyes. All at once, Sasha Volov sat on the black leather sofa in the center of the room, one arm resting across the backrest, the other wrapped firmly around the Omega sleeping against her chest. That Omega was Lena, the new nurse. The one everyone thought would disappear before sunrise. Lena's face was pressed against Sasha's shirt, her breathing light and exhausted. One hand still clutched the front of Sasha's jacket, as if she had fallen asleep while trying to hold the Enigma Queen down. A thin medical glove hung loose from her wrist. There were bloodstains on her sleeve, but none of the blood seemed to be hers. No one understood how she was still alive. For one full week, every nurse sent into Sasha Volkov's private treatment room had vanished from the organization. Some said they had run away screaming. Some said their minds broke after breathing Sasha's pheromones for too long. Others whispered something worse, that Sasha killed anyone who touched her when her Enigma instincts snapped. Nobody asked out loud. In the underworld, questions could be more dangerous than bullets. Sasha was not only a Mafia queen. She was an Enigma, the kind even alphas feared. After the last gang war, something inside her had become unstable. Her pheromones no longer simply pressured people. They crushed them. They filled rooms like smoke before a fire, making grown men drop to their knees and doctors tremble before touching a bandage. And last night, Lena had been sent into that room alone. The trouble began shortly after midnight. Sasha returned from a weapons deal turned massacre, with blood soaking through her shirt and 2 bullets pulled from her side by force. Her men had barely gotten her into the penthouse before her pheromones exploded through the medical wing. A doctor collapsed in the hallway. One alpha guard slammed into the wall and could not stand again. The older nurses refused to go in. No one blamed them. The treatment room door had already cracked from the inside, and Sasha's voice had come through it like something no longer fully human. Get out. Lena stood at the end of the corridor, holding a metal tray with medicine, bandages, and a small dark bottle she had prepared herself. She was new to the city, new to the organization, new to this kind of fear. Before this, Lena had lived far from all of it, in a mountain village with her grandmother, learning herbs, pressure points, scent control, and old methods most city doctors laughed at. After her grandmother died, she came to the city with nothing but her notes and the need to survive. The Mafia clinic hired her because they needed hands. They did not tell her those hands might be thrown away. A senior medic shoved her toward the door. You're an Omega. Maybe your scent will calm her. Lena looked at her, horrified. Or make it worse. The woman did not answer. That silence told Lena everything. Inside the treatment room, the lights flickered. Broken glass covered the floor. A steel table had been thrown against the wall. Sasha Volov stood near the wide window, breathing hard, one hand pressed against her bleeding side. Her shirt was half torn open, her body tense with pain and rage. Dark hair fell across her face, partially obscuring features that would have been beautiful if not for the raw violence radiating from every inch of her. She was 34 years old. 6 feet of lethal muscle and Enigma power. The undisputed queen of the Eastern syndicates. A woman who had clawed her way to the top through blood and betrayal, and stayed there through sheer, terrifying force of will. The moment Lena stepped inside, the pressure hit her. Her knees nearly gave out. Sasha's pheromones were not just strong. They were violent. They pushed into her lungs, into her skin, into the vulnerable Omega instincts she had spent years learning to control. Every part of her screamed to lower her head, back away, and run. Sasha turned slowly. Her eyes, dark gray, almost silver in the dim light fixed on Lena. I said get out. Lena's fingers tightened around the tray. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out anyway. You're still bleeding. Sasha laughed once under her breath. It was not amused. It was dangerous. You think that matters? It matters if you die. For a second, the room went completely still. Then Sasha moved. Lena barely saw it before her wrist was caught in a crushing grip. The tray crashed to the floor. Bottles rolled under the table. Sasha pulled her close enough that Lena could feel the heat of her breath and the brutal tension in her body. Do you know what happened to the nurses before you? Lena swallowed hard. I heard enough. Then why are you still here? Because she was terrified. Because she needed this job. Because her grandmother once told her that fear did not make a person weak, abandoning someone in pain did. Lena looked down at Sasha's bleeding side. Then, carefully, she lifted her free hand. Sasha's grip tightened. Lena flinched, but did not pull away. Let me help, she whispered. Just enough to stop the bleeding. Something in Sasha's expression shifted. Not softness. Not trust. Just a flicker of surprise, as if no one had spoken to her like a patient in a very long time. Lena reached for the fallen bottle with trembling fingers. The medicine inside was not standard clinic sedative. It was made from an old formula. Her grandmother had used it on feral alphas in the mountains. It couldn't control an Enigma. Nothing could. But maybe it could slow the storm inside her. Sasha watched every movement. One wrong breath could have killed Lena. Still, Lena cleaned the wound. She pressed the cloth down. She whispered instructions Sasha did not obey but also did not reject. Slowly, painfully slowly, the crushing pheromones in the room began to settle. Sasha's breathing deepened. Her grip on Lena's wrist loosened. For the first time that night, the silence did not feel like death. Hours passed. Lena did not remember when her legs finally gave out. She only remembered Sasha sitting down on the sofa, still wounded, still dangerous, but no longer destroying everything around her. Lena had meant to check her pulse one more time. She had meant to stand back. Instead, Sasha caught her before she fell. And somehow, Lena fell asleep against the chest of the most feared Enigma in the underworld. Now morning had come. The capos stared. The doctors stared. The guards stared. One young doctor took half a step forward. Boss, we should examine her. The Omega may be injured. Sasha's hand moved instantly, covering the back of Lena's head with terrifying care. The entire room stiffened. She's sleeping, Sasha said. The doctor went pale. Lena shifted slightly in her sleep, her fingers tightening weakly against Sasha's jacket. Sasha looked down at her for one brief moment, and the murderous pressure in the room softened. Then Sasha lifted her eyes back to the men and women in front of her. From today on, she said quietly, Lena stays here. No one dared to argue. But near the doorway, Mila, Sasha's most trusted right hand, watched the sleeping Omega with a cold expression. Because everyone in that room had realized the same thing. Lena had survived Sasha, and that made her more valuable and more dangerous than anyone was ready for. Nobody inside the Volkov organization understood what had changed inside the penthouse after Lena arrived. They only knew the atmosphere around Sasha no longer felt constantly on the edge of explosion. The guards outside the private floor stopped collapsing during shifts. The doctors could finally enter the medical wing without shaking. Even the staff delivering food noticed something strange. Sasha had started sleeping again. That frightened people more than her violence ever did. 3 days after the incident, Lena stood inside the private kitchen preparing medicine, while rain hammered softly against the windows overlooking the city. Steam rose from the pot in front of her, carrying the bitter scent of crushed herbs through the quiet room. She carefully poured the dark liquid into a glass bottle, just as the elevator doors opened behind her. Several armed women stepped out first. Then Sasha appeared. Her black shirt was stained with blood near the shoulder, though she walked like she barely noticed it. 2 capos followed behind her, speaking quickly about some failed deal at the southern docks. But the moment Sasha saw Lena standing near the counter, her attention shifted immediately. The conversation stopped. One of the capos glanced between them awkwardly before clearing her throat. "Boss, we'll discuss the shipment issue later." Sasha did not answer. Her eyes remained on Lena. The women left almost instantly. The elevator doors closed again. Lena frowned lightly. "You're bleeding again." Sasha removed her gloves slowly. "That sounds familiar. You reopened the stitches. You sound annoyed." "I spent 2 hours fixing them yesterday." For the first time since Lena met her, something that almost resembled amusement flickered across Sasha's face. It vanished quickly, but Lena noticed it anyway. Sasha sat at the kitchen island while Lena moved closer with clean gauze and antiseptic. The penthouse felt strangely quiet lately. No screaming. No shattered furniture. No guards being thrown through walls because they entered at the wrong time. Sasha still terrified everyone around her. But around Lena, the violence paused more often. Now Lena carefully pulled back the fabric near Sasha's shoulder wound. The second her fingers brushed Sasha's skin, the tension in the room eased slightly. Sasha noticed. So did Lena. Neither spoke about it. "You should stop getting shot," Lena muttered while cleaning the wound. Sasha leaned back slightly in the chair. "I'll consider it. That wasn't a joke." "I know." The answer came low and calm enough to make Lena glance up briefly. Sasha was already watching her. That intense gaze still unsettled Lena every single time. It felt less like being looked at and more like being studied by something dangerous, trying to understand why it could suddenly breathe easier near her. Lena quickly looked away first. Sasha's eyes lingered on her for another second before finally shifting aside. Later that evening, Lena discovered something else had changed. She walked into the private lounge carrying fresh bandages and stopped immediately when she saw Sasha asleep on the sofa. Actually asleep. Not unconscious from exhaustion. Not passed out after suppression. Sleeping peacefully. The television across the room still played muted news reports about gang violence downtown. One arm rested loosely across Sasha's stomach, while her head leaned back against the couch. Her expression looked strangely younger, without the constant tension pulling at it. Lena stood there for a moment, stunned. Then Sasha shifted slightly in her sleep. Without thinking, Lena stepped closer. The blanket hanging over the armchair nearby was expensive enough to probably cost more than her monthly salary, but she still picked it up carefully and draped it over Sasha's shoulders. The moment the blanket touched her, Sasha's eyes opened instantly. Lena nearly jumped back. For several dangerous seconds, Sasha looked ready to attack purely from instinct. Then her gaze focused properly on Lena standing there, and the violent edge disappeared again. "You should sleep in a bed," Lena said softly. Sasha's voice sounded rough from sleep. "I was." "That's a sofa." "It works." Lena sighed quietly before turning to leave, but suddenly Sasha's hand caught the edge of her sleeve. Not rough. Just enough to stop her. Lena froze. Sasha slowly sat upright, still holding onto the fabric near Lena's wrist. "Stay here. A minute." The request surprised Lena more than if it had been an order. Before she could answer, the elevator doors opened again. Mila entered first. Unlike everyone else inside Volkov, Mila never looked nervous around Sasha. Tall, calm, and constantly armed, she carried herself like someone who had survived beside monsters too long to fear them anymore. The scar near her jaw pulled slightly as her eyes landed on Lena, then on Sasha, still holding Lena's sleeve. The atmosphere cooled immediately. "There's a problem at the Eastern warehouse," Mila said flatly. One of the rival groups intercepted the shipment. Sasha released Lena slowly and stood. Handle it. Mila's expression hardened slightly. You should come personally. I said handle it. Silence stretched across the room. Lena could feel tension moving beneath the conversation, not open hostility, something quieter. Worse. Mila's gaze returned toward Lena briefly. Boss, she said carefully, you've been avoiding operations all week. Sasha's expression remained unreadable. And the organization is noticing. Lena lowered her eyes automatically, pretending to organize the medicine tray in her hands. Mila continued anyway. People are talking about the Omega. The room went silent. Sasha stepped forward slowly. The shift in pheromones hit instantly, heavy, cold, dangerous. Mila didn't move. Say what you actually want to say, Sasha said quietly. Mila held her gaze. You're getting distracted. For one terrible second, Lena thought the room might explode. Instead, Sasha laughed once under her breath. The sound carried absolutely no humor. You think an Omega is enough to distract me? I think, Mila answered carefully, that nobody has been allowed this close to you before. Sasha's eyes narrowed slightly. Then suddenly, the elevator alarm blared through the penthouse. Everyone turned instantly. One of the guards shouted through the comms, "Boss, incoming attack!" Gunfire exploded downstairs. The sound echoed violently through the tower. Sasha moved first. The calm atmosphere shattered immediately as armed enemies flooded through the hallways below. Lena heard glass breaking somewhere near the lower floors, followed by automatic gunfire and screaming over the security channels. Mila pulled out her weapon instantly. Get Lena into the safe room. I can walk myself, Lena snapped automatically. Neither alpha listened. Sasha grabbed Lena's wrist and shoved her behind the kitchen counter, just as bullets tore through the penthouse windows. Glass exploded across the marble floor. Lena hit the ground hard. Another shot rang out. Then Sasha suddenly jerked violently beside her. Blood spread across the side of Sasha's white shirt. Lena's chest tightened instantly. Sasha. The pheromones in the room detonated. Every light near the ceiling flickered. The pressure came unbearable, so fast that 2 guards near the doorway collapsed immediately. One attacker trying to enter the penthouse dropped to his knees, choking, before Sasha even touched him. Sasha looked terrifying. Her pupils had narrowed sharply. Blood dripped down her side while rage rolled off her so violently the air itself felt heavy. Mila grabbed her arm. Boss, control it. Sasha shoved her away, hard enough to crack the wall behind her. Lena realized with horror what was happening. Sasha wasn't reacting to being shot. She was reacting because Lena almost got hurt. Another attacker appeared near the broken window with a rifle raised. Without thinking, Lena moved. She grabbed Sasha's arm and pulled her down, just as the bullet shattered the counter behind them. Sasha froze beneath Lena's touch. Instantly, the violent pheromones destabilizing the room weakened. Not gone. Controlled. The silence afterward felt almost frightening. Mila stared openly. So did every surviving guard nearby. Sasha slowly turned toward Lena, still crouched beside her on the floor. You protected me, she said quietly. Lena's heart pounded painfully. You were about to get shot again. For several suspended seconds, Sasha only stared at her. Then her hand lifted slowly toward Lena's face, stopping just before touching her. Something dangerous shifted behind her eyes. Not rage. Something far worse. Attachment. And Mila noticed it too. By the end of the week, everyone in the underworld had heard the rumor. Sasha Volkov's Omega could calm an Enigma. Nobody knew exactly how much of it was true. Some claimed Lena carried rare suppressants impossible to buy on the market. Others whispered that Sasha had finally found a mate strong enough to survive her pheromones. The more ridiculous the rumors became, the faster they spread through the city. And Sasha did absolutely nothing to stop them. That alone terrified people. Lena noticed the change almost immediately. Guards followed her everywhere now. Elevators were locked unless Sasha approved access personally. Even the staff inside the penthouse lowered their voices around her, like she had become some dangerous object that might explode if handled incorrectly. The strangest part was Sasha herself. At first, Lena thought the possessiveness was accidental. Small things, Sasha calling her into meetings just to stand nearby. Sasha refusing medicine unless Lena handed it to her personally. Sasha reaching for Lena's wrist without thinking whenever the Omega moved too far away inside crowded rooms. But after the attack at the penthouse, it became impossible to ignore. Especially during business meetings. Too close. The cold warning instantly silenced the room. Lena looked up from the tablet in her hands and realized one of the visiting Alpha executives had leaned slightly toward her while explaining shipment numbers across the conference table. The woman froze. Sasha sat at the head of the table, wearing a dark suit with her gloves still stained faintly red from the morning. Her expression looked calm, but the pressure in the room had already started changing. Heavy. Dangerous. The Alpha executive immediately stepped back. My apologies, Boss Volkov. I wasn't. I know exactly what you were doing. Nobody spoke after that. Lena could practically feel the fear spreading across the table. The meeting continued, but every person there became painfully careful about where they stood, where they looked, even how they breathed near Lena. It should have made her uncomfortable. Instead, something about Sasha's reaction unsettled her in a completely different way. Because Sasha had not looked angry. She had looked possessive. Later that night, Lena stood alone in the medical room reorganizing supplies while rain rolled softly against the penthouse windows. Her shoulder still ached slightly from the gunfight a few days earlier, though Sasha had nearly lost her mind when she saw blood on Lena's clothes. The memory still made Lena's chest tighten strangely. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She turned. Sasha entered quietly. No guards, no weapons visible, just Sasha wearing a loose black shirt with damp hair from a shower. The atmosphere around her felt calmer tonight, until her eyes landed on Lena's injured shoulder. You're still favoring that arm. Lena sighed. It's barely a scratch. You were shot protecting me. You got shot first. Sasha stepped closer. Lena had started noticing something lately. Sasha always moved carefully around her now, like a woman trying not to scare away something fragile. It felt strange, considering everyone else in the city feared her like death itself. Sasha stopped directly in front of her. Let me see. Before Lena could answer, Sasha's fingers brushed lightly against the bandage beneath her sleeve. The touch was brief. Still, heat rushed through Lena's entire body instantly. Sasha noticed. Her eyes narrowed slightly as if she felt it too. The room suddenly became too quiet. Lena stepped back first. You should worry more about your own injuries. I heal. That's not the point. Sasha stared at her for a long second before speaking again. Then what is the point? Lena opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Because she honestly did not know anymore. The silence broke when the elevator doors opened downstairs. Mila walked into the medical wing carrying several files beneath one arm. The moment she saw Sasha standing close to Lena, her expression cooled noticeably. There's a problem, Mila said flatly. Sasha didn't look away from Lena immediately. What now? One of the Western syndicates requested a private meeting. Mila tossed the file onto the counter. They specifically asked for the Omega. The atmosphere changed instantly. Lena felt it before Sasha even spoke. Cold pressure flooded the room. No. Mila crossed her arms. Boss, refusing outright will create problems. I don't care. The Western Syndicate controls half the harbor routes. Sasha's expression darkened. Then they should learn not to ask for things that belong to me. The words hit Lena harder than expected. Mila noticed Lena's reaction instantly. So it's true, Mila murmured quietly. Sasha finally looked toward her fully. Watch your tone. But Mila didn't back down this time. You're proving every rumor right. Silence stretched tightly across the room. Mila stepped closer slowly. The organization is getting nervous. The rival families are getting curious. People think this Omega controls you. Sasha's voice lowered dangerously. Nobody controls me. Then stop acting like losing her would destroy you. The room went still. Lena's pulse stumbled painfully. For the first time since meeting Sasha, she saw something flicker across the Enigma's face, too fast to fully hide. Not anger. Fear. Sasha stepped forward. The pheromones in the room sharpened instantly. Mila remained standing, but even she looked tense. Now you're crossing a line, Sasha said quietly. Mila held her gaze. I crossed that line years ago. When I dragged you out of that warehouse covered in blood and bullets. Her voice hardened. I kept this organization alive while you were losing your mind after the war. Sasha's jaw tightened slightly. And now, Mila continued, all it takes is one Omega standing too close to make you unstable. Lena finally spoke. Stop. Both women looked toward her. Lena swallowed once before continuing carefully. This argument is because of me. No, Mila answered immediately. This started long before you arrived. Something about the way she said it made Lena uneasy. Very uneasy. Mila turned toward Sasha again. You think the other nurses disappeared randomly? The room froze. Sasha's expression darkened instantly. Mila. But the warning came too late. Lena looked between them slowly. What does that mean? Mila's eyes shifted toward her. Calm. Cold. Honest enough to be frightening. They were getting too close to the boss. Lena's stomach dropped. You. Her voice felt unsteady now. You made them disappear? I protected the organization. Sasha moved so fast the metal tray beside the counter crashed onto the floor. Mila didn't flinch, even when Sasha grabbed the front of her shirt and slammed her against the wall hard enough to crack it. You do not touch her, Sasha said softly. That tone frightened Lena more than shouting would have. Mila looked directly at Sasha despite the pressure crushing the room. You still don't understand. Her voice lowered. The moment people realize she matters more to you than the organization does, her eyes shifted briefly toward Lena, they will come for her. Silence followed. Heavy. Dangerous. Because deep down, all three of them knew Mila was right. The first sign something was wrong came just after midnight. Lena woke suddenly beneath tangled sheets with heat crawling painfully beneath her skin. At first, she thought it was a fever from exhaustion. The last few days had been chaos inside the Volkov organization. Rival syndicates kept circling closer. Meetings ran through the night. Sasha barely slept unless Lena stayed nearby. But this felt different. Too hot. Too sharp. Lena sat upright slowly, breathing unevenly as another wave rolled through her. Her pulse sped up instantly. The scent in the room thickened around her, Omega pheromones leaking uncontrollably into the air despite the suppressants she took regularly. Her stomach dropped. No. Not now. Not of all times. Lena quickly grabbed the suppressant bottle from the bedside drawer. Empty. She stared at it in disbelief before remembering she had forgotten to refill it after yesterday's clinic run. A soft knock came from outside the bedroom door. Lena. The sound of the Enigma's voice sent another violent rush through Lena's body. She gripped the blanket tightly, trying to steady her breathing. Outside the room, silence lingered for a second. Then Sasha spoke again, quieter this time. Open the door. Lena pressed a hand over her mouth. This was bad. Very bad. Sasha already reacted strongly to her scent under normal circumstances. During heat? Lena didn't even want to imagine it. Especially not after the tension building between them over the last few weeks. Another knock sounded. Lower now. Controlled too carefully. Lena. The restraint in Sasha's voice frightened her more than anger would have. Lena forced herself off the bed and crossed the room on shaky legs before unlocking the door. The moment it opened, cold fear rushed through her. Sasha stood outside wearing dark sweatpants and a loose shirt half open at the collar. Her hair looked damp, like she had just come from the shower. But none of that mattered compared to the expression on her face. Her pupils had already narrowed sharply. The scent of Enigma pheromones flooding the hallway felt heavy enough to crush the air from Lena's lungs. Sasha knew immediately. "You're entering heat," she said quietly. Lena looked away first. The suppressants stopped working. Sasha's jaw tightened. The hallway behind her was completely empty, no guards, no staff, no movement anywhere on the private floor. Sasha had already cleared everyone out. For her. "You should leave the penthouse," Lena said quickly. "If I stay here, your instincts." "No." The answer came instantly. Sharp. Absolute. Sasha stepped into the room and shut the door behind her. The atmosphere changed immediately. The scent between them thickened until Lena's knees nearly weakened again. Sasha noticed. Her expression darkened. "Sit down." Lena obeyed before realizing she had. Sasha stayed several feet away near the wall, arms crossed tightly, like she was physically forcing herself not to move closer. Every muscle in her body looked tense beneath the dim bedroom light. "You shouldn't be near me right now," Lena whispered. Sasha laughed once under her breath. The sound held no humor. "That makes two of us." Silence settled heavily between them. Lena could hear everything, her own heartbeat, Sasha's breathing, the rain outside. And beneath all of it, the dangerous pull growing stronger every second between Omega heat and Enigma instinct. Sasha suddenly turned away and braced one hand against the wall. The concrete cracked sharply beneath her palm. Lena froze. Sasha's control was slipping. The pheromones filling the room became heavier, rougher now, like a predator pacing in circles, trying not to attack. But beneath all that danger, Lena realized something terrifying. Sasha was fighting herself. Not her. "I can lock myself downstairs in one of the clinic rooms," Lena said carefully. Sasha shook her head immediately. "No. You can't stay in here all night like this." Another crack appeared beneath Sasha's hand. "You think walls are going to stop me if I completely lose control?" The question silenced Lena instantly. Because Sasha wasn't threatening her. She sounded afraid. Sasha inhaled slowly before walking toward the cabinet near the minibar. She grabbed a bottle of suppressant liquor, specially designed for high-level alphas, and drank directly from it without hesitation. Then another mouthful. Still, the pheromones around her barely weakened. Lena watched her quietly. "It's not helping." "I noticed." His voice sounded rougher now. Lena's heat surged again at the sound alone. She pressed trembling fingers against the edge of the bed, hating how vulnerable her body suddenly felt. Sasha saw that too. Her eyes locked onto Lena instantly. The room became suffocating. Lena swallowed hard. "Sasha, don't say my name like that right now." The answer came strained. "Dangerous." Sasha turned away immediately after speaking, jaw clenched tightly. Lena's chest tightened painfully. All this time, she had feared Sasha because everyone called her a monster. But right now, standing inside this room while every instinct screamed for her to lose control, Sasha was still trying. Harder than anyone Lena had ever met. Not to hurt her. That realization hit harder than fear. Lena slowly stood from the bed. Immediately, Sasha stiffened. "I told you not to move. You've been holding back this entire time." Sasha stared at her. "You think that's easy?" "No," Lena admitted softly. "I think it's hurting you." Something flickered across Sasha's expression then. Exhaustion. Frustration. Maybe something even worse. Lena took another careful step closer. The scent between them became unbearable now, heat and restraint, want and fear. Sasha's breathing deepened sharply. Lena. The way she said the name sent warmth crashing through Lena's entire body again. Still, Sasha did not touch her. Not once. Lena stopped directly in front of her, close enough now to see the tension shaking through Sasha's hands. The most feared enigma in the underworld looked like a woman barely surviving her own instincts. Without thinking further, Lena reached up slowly and touched Sasha's wrist. The reaction was immediate. The violent pressure filling the room steadied instantly. Sasha inhaled sharply. Her eyes dropped toward their joined hands like she could not believe what she was feeling. Neither could Lena. The terrifying pheromones surrounding them softened, balanced by the contact alone. Sasha lifted her free hand slowly toward Lena's face, then stopped halfway. That hesitation hurt Lena unexpectedly. "You're still scared to touch me," she whispered. Sasha's expression tightened. "You have no idea what I want to do to you right now." The honesty in her voice made Lena's pulse stutter. "But I won't," Sasha continued quietly. "Not unless you choose it." Silence crashed through the room. No alpha had ever given Lena that kind of choice before. That trust. That restraint. Lena stepped closer first. Sasha's control visibly cracked. Their foreheads touched slowly. Warm breath mixed between them. Lena closed her eyes automatically as Sasha's hand finally settled carefully against the side of her neck. Not possessive. Careful. Like touching something precious terrified her. For several suspended seconds, neither moved. Then Sasha lowered her head slightly. Their lips almost brushed. Almost. But Sasha stopped herself again. A rough breath escaped her instead as she pulled back half an inch. "If I kiss you tonight," she whispered painfully, "I'm never letting you go." Lena's chest tightened so hard it hurt. Before she could answer, a loud crash suddenly exploded from somewhere downstairs. Both of them froze instantly. Then came gunfire. Gunfire ripped through the lower floors of the penthouse, hard enough to shake the walls. Sasha moved instantly. The softness in her expression vanished so fast it almost felt unreal. 1 second, she stood inches away from Lena with her hand still against the Omega's neck. The next, the Enigma Queen was already reaching for the handgun hidden beneath the side table. Another explosion echoed downstairs. Voices screamed through the comms outside, "Boss, intruders on level 32. Sasha's pheromones surged violently through the room. Lena felt the shift immediately. Heat between them disappeared beneath something colder now. Deadlier. Sasha grabbed a jacket and shoved it toward Lena. "Lock the door after I leave." Lena stared at her. "You're going down there alone?" "Yes." "That's insane. So is staying near me during heat." Before Lena could argue again, Sasha stepped close one final time and pressed something cold into Lena's hand. A small black keycard. "The panic room behind the medical wing," Sasha said quietly. "No one gets in without this." The way she spoke made Lena's stomach tighten. It sounded less like instruction and more like preparation for something terrible. Sasha's fingers brushed Lena's wrist once before pulling away. "Do not leave this floor." Then she was gone. The bedroom door slammed shut behind her. For several seconds, Lena stood frozen in silence while gunfire continued echoing below. Her pulse pounded painfully beneath her skin, made worse by the lingering heat still twisting through her body. She could still smell Sasha everywhere. The scent clung to the room, to the sheets, to her skin. Then came screaming downstairs. Not fear. Pain. Lena moved before thinking. She grabbed the medical kit near the dresser and rushed into the hallway, just as 2 armed guards sprinted toward the elevators with blood running down one woman's arm. "Where's Sasha?" Lena demanded. The guards looked startled seeing her outside the room. "Boss went to the lower floors." Another explosion shook the corridor lights. Lena's chest tightened. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Then the elevator comm crackled loudly near the wall. Mila has betrayed the organization. The hallway froze. One of the guards cursed under her breath. The voice continued through static, multiple security sectors disabled. Boss is engaging alone. Lena felt cold instantly. Mila. The realization hit like ice water. The gunfire. The timing. The attack happening during her heat. This wasn't random. Mila had planned this. A second voice suddenly shouted through the comms. The Omega is priority. Secure the Omega. The guards turned toward Lena immediately. Too late. The lights in the hallway exploded. Smoke flooded the corridor. Armed figures burst through the emergency stairwell firing suppressor rounds. One guard dropped instantly before even reaching her weapon. The second shoved Lena backward. Run! Lena barely made it 3 steps before someone grabbed her from behind. A cloth pressed over her mouth. Chemical scent. Darkness crashed into her fast. The next thing Lena felt was cold metal beneath her wrists. Her head pounded violently as consciousness returned. Loud music echoed somewhere nearby. Male voices. Laughter. Bidding numbers. Lena slowly opened her eyes and immediately wished she hadn't. An underground auction hall stretched before her beneath crimson lights and black glass balconies. Armed guards lined the walls while wealthy figures sat in private booths above the stage. And Lena stood chained in the center. Panic hit instantly. One of the women near the platform laughed softly after noticing her wake. Finally, Lena's pulse accelerated. Where am I? The most expensive room in the city tonight. Another woman approached while adjusting her gloves. Do you know how many people are willing to pay for an Omega that can calm an Enigma? Cold dread settled into Lena's stomach. Mila sold her. No, worse. Mila handed her to the underworld. The crowd above the stage buzzed with excitement as whispers spread between the private booths. That's her, the Omega from Volkov. She survived Sasha. Some voices sounded curious. Others sounded hungry. Lena forced herself to stay calm despite the heat still burning beneath her skin. Her wrists strained painfully against the restraints while guards watched her carefully from every angle. One of the auctioneers stepped onto the stage, smiling broadly. Gentlemen and ladies, she announced smoothly, tonight's final item is not merely an Omega. This one is special. The screen behind Lena lit up instantly with stolen footage, Sasha calming beneath Lena's touch. Sasha pulling Lena behind her during gunfire. Sasha holding her close inside the penthouse. The room erupted into louder whispers. An Omega capable of stabilizing an unstable Enigma. The auctioneer grinned. Imagine the value. Lena's stomach turned. The first bid appeared immediately. Then another. Then millions more. Then the doors exploded open. The entire room fell silent. Sasha Volov walked inside alone. Blood covered one side of her black coat. Several fresh bullet wounds darkened the fabric near her ribs. But none of it seemed to matter compared to the expression on her face. She looked terrifying. Not angry. Not furious. Worse. Empty. The pheromones rolling from her flooded the auction hall like a living thing. Several alphas in the lower seats instantly dropped to one knee, choking for air. Glass cracked along the balcony rails. One guard near the stage collapsed unconscious before Sasha even raised her weapon. The auctioneer's smile disappeared. Boss Volkov. A gunshot cut her off permanently. Screaming erupted across the hall. Everything exploded into chaos. Sasha moved through the room like a monster finally unleashed. Bullets tore through guards before they could aim properly. Men and women crashed against tables trying to escape the pheromone pressure crushing the air around them. Lena had seen Sasha violent before. This was different. Sasha wasn't fighting. She was hunting. One attacker rushed toward Lena with a knife pressed against her throat. Back off or she dies. Sasha stopped instantly. The entire hall shook beneath the sudden force of her pheromones. For one terrifying second, Lena thought Sasha might completely lose control. Then Sasha's eyes locked onto hers, and Lena saw it. Fear. Real fear. Not of enemies. Of losing her. The knife pressed harder against Lena's neck. Sasha's voice came low and deadly calm. Take your hand off her. The attacker laughed nervously. You think I'm stupid? Sasha stepped forward slowly. The room temperature seemed to drop with every movement. You're already dead, Sasha said quietly. You just haven't realized it yet. The attacker panicked. Her grip shifted. That tiny mistake was enough. Sasha crossed the distance instantly. Blood splattered across the stage. The body hit the floor a second later. Then silence. Sasha turned toward Lena immediately. Lena's restraints snapped apart beneath Sasha's hands. For the first time since entering the auction hall, Sasha visibly shook. Lena stared at her hands in shock. The most feared woman in the underworld was trembling. Sasha. Sasha grabbed Lena tightly against her chest, like she needed physical proof the Omega was still alive. Her breathing sounded rough now. Uneven. You disappeared, Sasha whispered. The words hurt more than the gunfire ever could. Lena slowly touched the side of Sasha's face. Blood stained her fingers instantly. I'm here. Sasha closed her eyes briefly at the contact. The violent pheromones suffocating the room finally settled. Lena looked up at her quietly. You came alone. Sasha opened her eyes again. They took you. As if that answer explained everything. Maybe it did. For several suspended seconds, neither moved. Then Lena pulled Sasha down slightly and kissed her. Not desperate. Not heated. Relief. Sasha froze completely, then kissed her back harder, one hand tightening against Lena's waist like she never intended to let go again. Around them, the entire auction hall remained silent. Because everyone present had just realized the same terrifying truth. Sasha was no longer protecting Lena because she was useful. Sasha loved her. By the time Sasha returned to the Volkov headquarters with Lena beside her, the entire underworld already knew what happened at the auction hall. An Enigma queen had slaughtered an entire black market syndicate alone for 1 Omega. That kind of story spread faster than fear. Nobody spoke when Sasha walked through the lobby soaked in blood with Lena at her side. Armed guards lowered their heads immediately. Staff moved aside without breathing too loudly. The atmosphere inside the tower felt wrong now. Unstable. Like everyone sensed something larger approaching. Because they did. The moment the penthouse elevator doors opened, one of the surviving capos stepped forward carefully. Boss, several partner organizations are demanding emergency talks. Sasha kept walking. Reject them. They're threatening to pull funding and weapons routes if what? The capo swallowed hard. If the Omega remains beside you. Silence crashed through the corridor. Sasha stopped walking slowly. The pheromones rolling from her turned instantly heavier. Colder. Dangerous. Then Sasha looked at the woman. Tell them to try. The capo went pale immediately. Lena followed Sasha into the penthouse quietly while the others retreated. The second the doors shut behind them, the exhaustion finally hit. Blood stained nearly every part of Sasha's clothes now. Some wounds had stopped bleeding. Others clearly hadn't. Lena grabbed her wrist immediately. Sit down. Sasha looked at her for a second before obeying without argument. That alone still felt unreal sometimes. The most feared Enigma in the city sat silently on the edge of the sofa, while Lena cleaned blood from her ribs under the dim lights of the penthouse. Outside the glass windows, rain poured across the city skyline. Neither spoke for a while. Then finally Sasha said quietly, I killed Mila. Lena's hands stopped briefly. She's dead. No. Sasha's expression darkened. She escaped before the building collapsed. The answer unsettled Lena more than she wanted to admit, because Sasha never left enemies alive, especially not traitors. Lena resumed wrapping the bandages carefully. She really believed she was protecting you. Sasha laughed once under her breath. Bitter. Exhausted. She was protecting the version of me that existed before you. The room fell quiet again. Lena looked down at the fresh bruises covering Sasha's side. Then Sasha's eyes lifted toward her slowly. Now I don't know what I become if something happens to you. The honesty in her voice hurt unexpectedly. Before Lena could answer, alarms suddenly exploded through the penthouse. Red warning lights flooded the ceiling. One of the guards shouted through the security comms, "Boss, multiple hostile units entering the tower." Sasha stood instantly. The pressure in the room changed at once, not calm anymore. Violent. It's the Western Alliance, the guard continued. They're demanding surrender of the Omega. Gunfire erupted several floors below. Lena's stomach dropped. They came now. After the auction hall. After Sasha publicly chose her. Sasha grabbed a weapon from the table drawer while guards flooded the private floor outside. Through the windows, Lena could already see black armored vehicles surrounding the building below. This wasn't an attack. It was war. Stay behind me, Sasha said coldly. The elevator doors exploded open before Lena could answer. Armed figures stormed into the penthouse. Gunfire erupted instantly. Sasha moved like something inhuman, her shots landing with terrifying precision while pheromones crushed through the room hard enough to make several enemy alphas stumble before reaching cover. But there were too many. More explosions echoed from lower floors. Smoke spread through the hallway. Volkov guards shouted through comms while enemy syndicates pushed deeper into the tower. And then Lena saw her. Mila stepped from the elevator's smoke wearing a dark coat stained with blood. The entire room froze. Mila looked exhausted. Wounded. But her eyes immediately found Sasha, then Lena. This ends tonight, Mila said quietly. Sasha's voice dropped dangerously low. You should have stayed dead. Mila ignored the threat completely. Look around you. She gestured toward the burning hallway outside. This organization is collapsing because of her. Lena stiffened. Mila continued anyway. The moment people realized the Omega mattered more than power, they stopped fearing you. Her eyes hardened. You became weak. The air around Sasha shifted instantly. Wrong. Lena felt it before anyone else. The pheromones thickened violently. Dark veins slowly spread beneath the skin near Sasha's throat while her breathing deepened into something rougher. Unstable. But instead of backing away, Mila stepped closer. You know I'm right. Sasha raised the gun toward her. Her hand trembled. Lena's pulse jumped, not from hesitation. From loss of control. Mila saw it immediately. There it is, she murmured softly. That monster again. The pressure exploding through the penthouse became unbearable. Several guards collapsed to one knee instantly. Glass shattered across the walls. One enemy alpha screamed while clutching her throat. Sasha's pupils narrowed sharply. More wolf than human now. Lena's chest tightened painfully. Sasha was slipping. Not because of rage, because she was trying too hard not to lose herself in front of Lena. Mila slowly lowered her own weapon. Boss, she said quietly, look at yourself. Sasha's breathing became uneven. Another pulse of pheromones slammed through the room, hard enough to crack marble beneath her boots. Nobody moved. Nobody dared. Then Sasha suddenly staggered. Lena reacted instantly. Sasha, don't come closer. The warning came out distorted. Inhuman. Sasha's expression twisted painfully as she braced herself against the wall. The veins beneath her skin spread darker now while every instinct inside the room screamed danger. The Enigma was completely destabilizing. Several guards backed away in panic. Mila's face finally changed fear, real fear. Boss? Sasha snarled violently. The sound shook the room. Gunfire outside stopped completely as silence spread through the tower floor by floor. Every alpha nearby could feel it now. The Enigma had fully lost control. Lena realized the terrifying truth immediately. If this continued, Sasha would destroy everyone here, including herself. "Stay away from her," one guard shouted desperately. Nobody noticed Lena moving until she stepped directly toward Sasha. Mila cursed instantly. "Lena, stop." Too late. Sasha lifted her head sharply the moment Lena approached. For one horrifying second, Lena saw absolutely no recognition in her eyes. Only instinct. Predator. Danger. Still, Lena kept walking. Slowly. Carefully. Just like the first night inside the treatment room. Everyone in the penthouse stared in frozen silence as Lena stopped directly in front of the most dangerous woman in the underworld. Sasha's breathing sounded ragged now. Violent pheromones tore through the room. Lena's knees nearly weakened from the pressure, but she forced herself to stay standing. Then, softly, she spoke. "Look at me." Sasha froze. The room held its breath. Lena slowly reached up and touched Sasha's face. The atmosphere changed instantly. Not completely, but enough. The crushing pheromones weakened around them. Sasha's shaking became less violent. Recognition flickered faintly behind her eyes. Lena. The way she said the name sounded broken. Not dangerous anymore. Just afraid. Lena's chest hurt. All this time, Sasha feared becoming a monster. But the truth was much simpler. Sasha feared hurting the person she loved. Lena stepped even closer despite the danger. "I'm not running away from you." Sasha stared at her like the words physically hurt. Behind them, the surviving syndicate leaders watched in stunned silence. Nobody moved. Nobody dared interrupt. Then Lena turned slightly toward the room, toward the underworld watching them, and clearly, calmly, she said, "I choose her." Silence crashed through the penthouse. Sasha's expression shattered completely. For the first time since Lena met her, the Enigma looked emotionally undone. Not feared. Not untouchable. Human. Sasha's hand rose slowly toward Lena's neck, stopping beside her scent gland. Her fingers trembled visibly. One final hesitation. Lena answered by leaning closer first. That was all Sasha needed. The mating mark happened instantly. A sharp breath escaped Lena as Sasha bit gently into the gland beneath her neck. Silver pheromones exploded through the penthouse before settling almost immediately into complete stillness. The violent pressure suffocating the tower disappeared. Sasha's breathing steadied slowly. The dark veins beneath her skin faded back little by little. Around them, nobody spoke. Because every person in that room understood the same thing. The Omega standing beside Sasha was no longer a weakness. She was the only reason the Enigma remained human. Several seconds later, Mila lowered her weapon first. Her expression looked exhausted now. Defeated. "You really chose her over everything," she said quietly. Sasha finally looked toward her again, one arm still wrapped tightly around Lena's waist. "No," Sasha answered calmly. "I chose her over becoming a monster." Mila stared at her silently before turning away. None of the remaining syndicates dared continue the fight after that. Not when the Enigma Queen stood there holding the one person capable of calming her. The war ended before sunrise. Several weeks later, the city finally became quiet again. The rival syndicates backed away from Volkov. Rumors still spread through the underworld, but nobody dared touch Lena anymore. Not after the auction massacre. Not after the penthouse war. Late one night, Lena sat near the massive window inside Sasha's bedroom while rain rolled softly across the glass. Sasha slept beside her on the couch. Actually slept. No tension in her jaw. No violence in the air. No signs of the monster the underworld feared. Just peace. Lena looked down quietly as Sasha unconsciously rested one hand against her waist. Even in sleep, possessive, protective, safe. Outside the room, one of the younger guards approached the doorway before another immediately grabbed her shoulder and pulled her back. "Don't," the older guard whispered. The younger woman blinked. "Why?" The older guard glanced toward the sleeping Enigma inside, then toward the Omega resting beside her. She lowered her voice carefully. "If the Omega is sleeping on Boss Volkov's chest." She swallowed once. "Nobody in this building is stupid enough to wake her." Beneath the endless city lights, the most feared Enigma in the underworld finally found the only place where her instincts became quiet. Not in power, not in violence, and not in fear, but beside the Omega who chose to stay when everyone else ran away. Sasha Volov remained a monster to the rest of the world. Yet to Lena, she was simply someone who had been tired of fighting alone. And finally, she didn't have to anymore. Extra story. 1 month after the marking. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. Lena stood at the penthouse window, watching water streak down the glass like silver tears. Behind her, the city blurred into gray smears of light and shadow. Somewhere down there, the underworld still churned with rumors and rivalries. But up here, in the glass tower at the edge of the city, everything had become quiet. Almost too quiet. She pressed her palm against the cold window and felt the familiar ache building low in her belly. Not again. Her heat had been creeping toward her for hours now. A slow, suffocating warmth that started in her chest and spread downward like honey through her veins. She had taken her suppressants this morning. Double her usual dose. It wasn't working. Nothing was working. Not since the marking. Lena closed her eyes and rested her forehead against the glass. Her grandmother's voice echoed somewhere in the back of her memory. "A mating mark changes everything, little one. Your body will know. It will want." She hadn't understood then. She understood now. The elevator chimed softly behind her. Lena didn't turn around. She didn't need to. She could feel Sasha the moment the Enigma stepped into the penthouse, the weight of her presence, the slow pulse of her pheromones bleeding into the air like smoke. "Lena." Sasha's voice was low. "Careful." Lena opened her eyes, but kept them on the rain. "You're back early." The meeting ended. "Did you kill anyone?" A pause. Then, quieter. "Not today." Lena almost smiled. Almost. But another wave of heat rolled through her body, and the smile died before it could reach her lips. She gripped the windowsill, knuckles going white. Sasha's footsteps stopped about 10 feet away. "You're in heat." It wasn't a question. Lena finally turned. Sasha stood near the elevator in a black suit, her dark hair pulled back from her face, her gray eyes sharp and focused. She looked like she had just walked out of a war room, tense, controlled, watching. But beneath the control, Lena could see it. The hunger. Not the violent kind. Not the kind that made the underworld tremble. This hunger was different. Slower. Deeper. The kind that came from a bonded Enigma sensing her Omega in distress. "I took my suppressants," Lena said. Sasha's jaw tightened. "I can smell them on you. They're not working." "No." Another wave. Lena's knees nearly buckled. She caught herself against the window frame, breath coming shorter now. Her skin felt too hot. Her clothes felt like sandpaper. Sasha took one step forward, then stopped. "Tell me what you need." The question hung between them like glass, fragile and sharp. Lena looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who had slaughtered an entire black market syndicate alone. At the Enigma who made alphas drop to their knees without lifting a finger. At the monster the underworld whispered about in the dark. That woman was standing 10 feet away, hands clenched at her sides, asking permission. Something cracked open inside Lena's chest. "I need," her voice broke. She tried again. I need you to stop standing so far away. Sasha closed the distance in 3 strides. But when she reached Lena, she didn't touch her. Not immediately. She stopped inches away, close enough that Lena could feel the heat radiating from her body, close enough to smell the clean, dark scent of her pheromones. Sasha lifted one hand. Slowly, trembling slightly. She pressed her palm against the window beside Lena's head and leaned in until their foreheads almost touched. You have no idea, Sasha whispered, how hard I'm trying not to lose control right now. Maybe I don't want you to. Sasha's breath caught. Lena reached up and touched her face, the same way she had done in the auction hall, the same way she had done during the war. Her fingers traced the sharp line of Sasha's jaw, then drifted higher to brush against the Enigma's scent gland. The reaction was immediate. Sasha's pheromones flooded the space between them, thick, heavy, demanding. Not violent. Not crushing. Just overwhelming. Lena's knees finally gave out. Sasha caught her. One arm wrapped around Lena's waist, pulling her against a body that felt like it was made of steel and fire. The other hand cupped the back of Lena's head, fingers threading through her hair. I've got you, Sasha murmured against her temple. Lena clung to her. Don't let go. Never. The bedroom was dark when Sasha carried her inside. Rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers. Somewhere far below, the city hummed with traffic and distant sirens. But in here, in this glass box suspended above the world, there was only the sound of their breathing. Sasha laid Lena on the bed and stepped back. Lena grabbed her wrist before she could retreat. Where are you going? Nowhere. Sasha's voice was rough. I'm right here. Then stay. Sasha looked down at their joined hands. The most feared enigma in the underworld looked almost lost. Lena, if I stay in this room tonight, I don't know if I'll be able to. You won't hurt me. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Sasha's throat moved as she swallowed. How? Lena pulled her down onto the bed. Sasha went willingly, like she had been waiting for permission her entire life. She settled beside Lena on the cool sheets, one arm sliding beneath the Omega's shoulders, the other resting carefully on her hip. Close. But not too close. Like she was still afraid of breaking something precious. Lena turned her head on the pillow and looked at Sasha in the dim light. The Enigma's gray eyes were dark now, nearly black, but there was no violence in them. No hunger that felt like a threat. There was something else. Something Lena had never seen before. Vulnerability. You're scared, Lena whispered. Sasha didn't deny it. I've faced down armies. Killed men with my bare hands. Watched rivals beg for mercy and felt nothing. She paused. But this? Being this close to you when every instinct is screaming at me to, she stopped. Breathed. This is the most terrified I've ever been. Lena reached up and touched Sasha's lips with her fingertips. Then let me help you, she said softly. The way you helped me. Sasha turned her head and pressed a kiss to Lena's palm. Then her wrist. Then the inside of her elbow. Slow. Gentle. Worshipful. Tell me if I go too far, Sasha whispered. I will. And if I can't stop? Lena pulled her closer. You will. Because you're not the monster they think you are. Sasha made a sound half laugh, half something broken, and buried her face against Lena's neck. Her lips brushed the mating mark on Lena's throat, and Lena gasped as heat flooded through her like wildfire. Sasha. I'm here. Another kiss, softer this time. I'm not going anywhere. The rain fell harder against the windows. And in the darkness, 2 women who had spent their entire lives fighting alone finally stopped. Lena woke to gray morning light and the weight of Sasha's body wrapped around her like armor. The heat had passed. Not completely. She could still feel it simmering beneath her skin, patient and waiting, but the sharp, desperate edge was gone, replaced by something softer. Contentment. Sasha's face was pressed against Lena's shoulder, her dark hair spilling across the pillow. One hand rested on Lena's stomach. The other was tangled in Lena's hair. She looked peaceful. Lena had never seen her look peaceful before. Slowly, carefully, she reached down and brushed a strand of hair from Sasha's face. The Enigma stirred but didn't wake. Instead, she made a small sound and pulled Lena closer. Lena smiled and closed her eyes. Outside, the rain began to slow. An hour later, Sasha's phone buzzed somewhere on the floor. Neither of them moved. It buzzed again. Then again. Someone's going to die, Sasha mumbled against Lena's collarbone. Probably. Another buzz. Then another. Sasha groaned and reached blindly for the phone without lifting her head. She squinted at the screen, expression shifting from sleepy to irritated to something Lena couldn't read. "What is it?" Lena asked. Sasha dropped the phone back onto the carpet. "Mila." Lena stiffened. What does she want? To apologize. After everything she did? Sasha finally lifted her head. Her gray eyes met Lena's, clear now, steady, safe. She wants to come back. Work for the organization again. Prove herself. And what did you tell her? Sasha was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned down and pressed a kiss to Lena's forehead, soft, reverent, final. I told her, Sasha murmured against her skin, that the only person I take orders from now sleeps in my bed. Lena's heart stumbled. I don't give you orders. No. Sasha kissed her again, her nose, her cheek, the corner of her mouth. You give me something better. What's that? Sasha pulled back just enough to look at her. Really look at her. The most feared enigma in the underworld smiled, a real smile, small and private and only for Lena. Peace, she said simply. And when Lena kissed her back, the rain finally stopped. The end. Outside the bedroom door, the guards stood in nervous silence. One of them, the youngest, newest, most foolish, took a step toward the handle. An older guard grabbed her arm so fast it almost dislocated. Don't, the older guard hissed. But the morning briefing. The morning briefing can wait. The older guard glanced toward the closed door, then lowered her voice. The Queen's Omega just went through her first heat since the marking. Do you know what that means? The younger guard shook her head. The older guard sighed and dragged her away from the door. It means, she said quietly, that if you wake either of them right now. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Everyone in the building already knew how that story ended.